and welcome to the third lesson of our Data Analytics with Excel course. This is a very, very powerful course that will give you a strong foundation in data analytics. We have to understand that the same data that we work on in Excel is the same data we work on in other platforms. Okay, the same data we work on in SQL, the same data we use for analysis, the same data we use in Power Query, the same data we use in machine learning and in every part of data analytics. Yes, and so we need to understand how to handle this data on multiple platforms, and Excel is one of the most popular platforms for you to know how to manipulate data. Sometimes your data needs to work in or be in a CSV format. Sometimes it needs to be in Excel format, sometimes in SQL formats. And as data analysts, we need to be ready to handle data in various formats. All right, we need to be ready to handle data in various formats and to understand them. When you see CSV, you have to understand it. You have to know how to handle it. You have to know how to work with it, because if you do not learn it, then you cannot use the data for the analysis, for the machine learning, and for all that you want to do. And when you see data in JSON format, you need to also know how to work with it. So in data analytics, we understand data in various formats, and we are building a strong foundation in working with data in Excel, and we'll move on to all the various tools. In this class, we will learn about Power BI, we'll learn about Tableau, we will learn SQL, we'll learn all the formats and all the tools we need. And by the time we are done, we will all be ready and we will be qualified for opportunities around the world. All right, so in this particular third lesson, we are going to continue from where we ended last week. And of course, it all begins with Excel. Data analytics begins with Excel. And we mentioned last week that for some of you, Excel will be the tool you use most of the time. And so you need to build a strong foundation in it. You need to build mastery in it, and you need to be very, very confident working with it. In these classes, I expect you to come ready with your machines, because we are going to be working. We are going to be working, and we are going to be understanding as well. Yes, and I want to let you know that you need to make it happen now, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is a loser's excuse. Make it happen now. I've seen some of you with this attitude. Make it happen now, like Benedine. She wants to make it happen now. Let's make it happen now, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is a loser's excuse. And it's very important for us to understand that tech people, we love to learn, and tech people, we have the habit of learning, all right? Because the field is growing rapidly, and we need to make sure we are relevant in the field so that we can make an impact. And so this is the time to learn. This is the time to focus and learn. So let's all make plans for learning. Don't let work overcome your learning. Work is something that can trap you for years, and you realize that you've not upgraded yourself. You realize that what you even knew, you have forgotten. You realize that what you are using now at the workplace is even outdated. There are modern tools, there are better tools, there are better ways of doing it. And what the knowledge you have now is even expired. All right, so let's not allow work to overcome our learning. Work is very important, let's work, but let's make the time to learn now. Don't postpone it. Your self-study, don't postpone it. Don't say tomorrow, because this study, if you don't do it, it will affect your certification. So please, let's go ahead and let's do it. Please start, make it happen now. If you understand what I said, make it happen now. Let me see the first person who wants to make it happen now. And this applies to every area of your life as well. Let's be people who want to see action, who take action, people who want to see results, people who are result-oriented, people who don't just talk. I know a lot of people, they just talk and talk and talk and talk, And for years, they've not done anything. They've not done anything. And I know people who know very little and they use it, they apply it, they apply it. And everything we are learning here, we are going to apply it. We are going to apply it. All right. So today's lesson will help us understand, get a better understanding of what we started last week. And Excel is the most popular spreadsheet tool in the world, spreadsheet tool in the world. And when we talk about spreadsheet tool, we understand that these are tools that allows us to manipulate data in rows and columns and cells. So these are spreadsheets, and these tools are very, very important. In the first lesson, we talked about spreadsheets and why they are important. We talked about why the boxes are there and why they are important and what they are used for. So it's very important we understand, and Excel is the most popular one. Who knows any other spreadsheet tool in the world? Any popular spreadsheet tool? The first lesson, we talked about other spreadsheet tools. So anyone who knows Google Sheet, thank you, Bernardine. Google Sheet is also there. So this means that as we are learning Excel, we also need to transfer our knowledge to Google Sheet as well, because Google Sheet is also popular. Okay, we need to transfer our knowledge to Google Sheets as well. Yes, LibreCalc. We need to transfer our knowledge to Google Sheet as well. So sometimes we need to use Google Sheets to work on data as well. Yes, because if we are only tied to Excel and your company works with Google Sheets, you wouldn't know what to do. All right, so this is part 2, and I thought we'll be finishing part 2. We'll be finishing data visualization foundation in part 2, but it appears that we definitely need part 3. So this is part 2 of what we started last week, and it's about data visualization with Excel charts. So we are going to be working with charts and creating effective charts to interpret data. And what is very, very important is for us to understand why we need certain charts and what charts are important for what kind of data. Once you have that understanding, you've really, really made progress. All right. And so whether you are writing Python code or you are importing a library or you are using Tableau or Power BI or Excel, you understand the charts you need. You understand your data and you understand the charts that you need. So this is a very, very powerful lesson. And we saw some of these charts here. And I want you to type one of the charts you see here. These are very, very popular charts. Type one of them. Yeah, you see here. And yes, just type any of them. Let me see the first person to give me. All right, so we have area chart, we have pie chart, we have line chart. So all these are very, very popular charts. And I don't know who's going for the donut. Someone went for pie. Who's going for the donut? Okay, so we have pie chart. And then we also have donut. Thank you, Nyapandi. I knew you typed the donut for me. All right. So this is very important. And I want us to take a good look at these charts. Now, the first chart here is called a column chart. This is the name of this chart. And this is how it looks. Then the second one is called a bar chart. And you can see that the column chart and the bar chart all use rectangular bars. And sometimes you ask whether their difference is relevant. And of course they are. When we study about them, we understand how important their differences are. Now, these two charts, most of the time, they are both generally referred to as bar charts. They are generally referred to as bar charts, but there are specific use cases for each of them. And so, to be more specific, we need to distinguish between them. And the first one that we call bar chart, it is not wrong, but it is a general term to call that bar chart. and that one can be referred to as horizontal bar chart, sorry, vertical bar chart, and the second one can be referred to as horizontal bar chart. But apart from stating vertical or horizontal, they have specific names tied to them. So if you want to be very, very technical, the vertical bar chart is referred to as column chart. And this is one of the things we'll be looking at today. And the horizontal bar chart is actually referred to as bar chart. So we need to think about this and try and get the difference here, because they are both bar charts, and sometimes you may not be sure which one is being referred to, and we need to understand their specific details to know which one to use for different types of data. Then we have the line charts, which we have already looked at, and we also have the pie chart, which we'll be looking at after we finish talking about these ones into details. Before we begin, I'm going to take a quick recap and mention that data visualization is a process of representing data graphically. Last week, I showed you a video where data was put in a paragraph of text. And so it was in a passage form. Having data in a passage form makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to analyze and understand. There are better ways of representing data. So from the passage form, we realize that even making the data tabular makes it very easy to look at and very easy to analyze. Having the data in a table alone is good. But better still, having the data graphically makes it extremely easy for it to be understood and for it to be analyzed. It is said that a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. And that is true with data visualization. We need to make sure we represent the same numbers visually or graphically. And if we can make the data appear graphical, it will be easier for non-technical people to understand the data. And one work of the data analyst is to make the data easy to be understood. So the data analyst will study the data, will understand the data, and present the data. So to present your data, one of the best ways to make it easy for senior executives and for those who are supposed to receive the data to understand it is to make it graphical, and this is very, very important. Instead of analyzing raw numbers, using chart helps users easily see the story behind the data. And charts are important because charts make complex data easier to understand. It highlights trends, outliers, relationships, enhances data storytelling and everything. When we get to outliers, we are going to understand that charts really make it very easy for you to see the outliers. And without a chart, it's going to be very difficult for you to see from the raw data. The heart and soul of our lesson is to understand that not all charts works for all types of data. This is what we are here to understand, and also understand what types of charts are supposed to be used for different or specific data types or types of data. Different types of charts are suited for different kinds of data. This is a very, very strong point. And I'm going to give you a short quiz for you to tell me what type of charts we should use for the data that the question will refer to. And before we do that, I want you to type this in the chat for me to reinforce learning and understanding for you to get a point really, really well. That not all charts work for all types of data. not all charts. So let me see the first person to put this in the chat for me. I want to see this in the chat. Not all charts work for all types of data. This is very, very important, because if you don't take this lesson, you will not really understand when a pie chart should be used, when a histogram needs to be used, when a column chart needs to be used, and when a line chart needs to be used. All right, so my first question, which is probably the only question I'm going to ask, is what type of chart is most suited for time series data or visualizing trends over time? Visualizing trends over time. So let me see your answer in the chat, and almost all of you got it right. Okay, that is the whole point of this lesson. If you understand that when it comes to time series data, you need to use line charts, or when the goal of the analysis, you see, sometimes you will have one particular data set, and depending on the insights you want to draw from the same data, you will choose a specific chart to bring out that particular insights. And so the same data, if you want to visualize the trends over time, you can use line charts. And the same data, you may want to find out something else, and you may need a scatter plot. You see? And so it depends on the type of data. So well done. The answer is line chart. All right. Next, I'm going to play a short clip, and after that, we will zoom in to a very, very important difference between the bar charts, the column charts, and the line charts, which will be very, very important for us to understand to really solidify our understanding. So I'm going to share a short video. Let's watch it and we'll continue.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about which graph do I use. There are lots of different graphs that you can use in math and science, and sometimes it's hard to figure out which type I should use to display data. Here's a nice chart that goes over different types of graphs and when you should maybe use them. First, we have the bar graph, and this shows the number in particular categories. A circle graph compares parts of the data to the whole. A double bar graph is good for comparing. Box and whiskers show measures of variation. A histogram is good to show frequency of data divided into intervals. A line graph shows change over time, and a line plot shows frequency on a number line. So let's look at a particular examples. Up first is the bar graph. Notice in this particular example, you have types of cookies and cells, so you have categories. Next, we have a line graph, and line graphs are famous for showing data over time. For example, the stock market uses the price of stock over time, and it can be daily or monthly. A circle graph is good to show parts of a whole. In this example, you have parts of people and their favorite sport, and notice it's divided in percents or parts, and then you have the total number of people. Next, we have a double bar graph, and it's good to compare data. In this example, you have a survey, and then you have the number that consider themselves Christian, no religion, etc. But you see that it compares the different data. Okay. Next, we have a histogram. When do we use these? They are very good to show intervals. Notice that you have the height of black cherry trees, and then the frequency, but also notice that it's over, you have a range or an interval of height. So again, histograms are always, not always, but are used well for intervals. A box and whisker is good to show variation among your data. In this example, you have age of runners in a 5K race, and you can quickly see extremes. You can see the youngest on the left the oldest on the right, and a mean, but it's a quick way to glance and see variation among your data. And finally, you have a line plot, and this is good to show various categories on a number line. In this example, you have sporting equipment and how many you have of each, and it's on a number line. So there we go, looking at different graphs and when to use them. Thanks for watching, and Moo Moo Math uploads a new math and science video every day.
All right. So what type of charts will be best to find out how many students in this particular class are between the ages of 27 and 35? Who can tell me the chart that is needed for that kind of insight? We want to know how many students in this class right now are between the ages of 27 and 35. Who can tell me in the charts? What type of chart do we need for that insight? All right. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. Well done. Thank you, Lucretia. And we realize that for that type of insight, this right here is the best chart to use. And so we will get understanding of these types of charts and know when to use them. All right. So we mentioned that there are various types of charts, and we have line chart, bar chart, pie chart, scatter plot, and much more. Each one is suited for specific data representations. Different charts types are designed to visualize different types of data effectively. And using the wrong charts can make data difficult to interpret or even misleading. If you use the wrong chart, it can even make data difficult to interpret or misleading. And knowing the right type of chart to use makes you an excellent data analyst. We looked at line charts and we saw how important these line charts are. And this is a type of chart that uses a continuous line to connect data points. So we have the data point and we draw a line to connect the data point. And we see that it looks like this. This is a line chart. And sometimes we remove the points just to see the line. The line alone explains the data. It gives us the insights we are looking for. We can tell that in June, sales is going to rise, even without the point. We looked at bar charts, and this is not wrong to be called a bar chart, but the focus of the lesson tonight is to take a deeper look at this particular chart. This bar chart here is a general term used to refer to two types of bar charts. So generally, when we say bar charts, we are referring to two types, unless we are very specific. When we are specific, then it means we are talking about a column chart and a bar chart. Again, it is column and bar, and so sometimes it may be confusing. Nevertheless, it is not wrong to refer to this as a bar chart. It is not wrong at all to refer to this as a bar chart. Now, both vertical and horizontal bar charts are called bar charts in general. However, there are specific terms used to differentiate them. The vertical bar chart technically is referred to as a column chart. And from today, as data professionals, we are going to stick to the technical term used to refer to vertical bar charts. And the horizontal bar charts is typically just called bar charts. I want to find out if anyone is confused or you understand. If you understand, let me know in the chat. If you understand, let me know in the chat. If you understand. All right, so Norbert understands, Lucretia, of course, understands. Nadine, of course, understands. David understands. Okay. If you are confused, let me know. Okay, Robley understands. Paul, all right. Now, in many cases, bar chart is used generally for both terms. But if you need to be specific, you can use vertical bar chart. So sometimes you can also add vertical or horizontal to it. But then, as professionals, now we call that column chart. So when we refer to column charts, we are talking about the vertical ones. And when we say bar chart, we are talking about the horizontal one. So I wanted to remove the name from this. Or let me go back to the first one and ask you, what type of chart is this? What are you going to see in the chart? What type of chart is this? And I'm talking about chart with R, and put it in the chat without R. Okay, so please keep this in mind. Dorcas, Robley, Timothy, Esimami, Zeph. This is a column chart. It's a column chart. And so as a professional, if you call this a bar chart, just because you're a professional, we are going to give you wrong moving forward. But you need to understand the context. Maybe you are listening to someone who is non-technical. When this referred to this as bar chart, it is not wrong at all. That is why we started a lesson calling it a bar chart. But tonight we are going to be more specific. So we call this a column chart. Now, calling this a column chart, we are going to learn some very important things and understand some key details about it. Now, a column chart is similar to a bar chart, but instead of horizontal bars, it uses vertical bars to represent data. You see, if you don't understand what we are saying, this text doesn't make sense. But if you understand, then it makes sense. All right. So a column chart is similar to a bar chart, and this time we are referring to the horizontal one. They are similar, but instead of the horizontal bars, it uses vertical bars. It is widely used for comparing values. Let's pay attention here. This is used widely for comparing values across different categories. So we talked about this last week, where we use it to compare values between different categories like laptops and other devices. And it is especially effective in visualizing trends. Okay, wait a minute. What do you mean by visualizing trends? I thought line charts was used for visualizing trends. We took a quiz and we talked about visualizing trends, and it was line charts. So why are we saying that it is effective in visualizing trends? So these are the details that we are going to look into and get the understanding so that we actually understand what to do when we are looking for certain insights. Sometimes we may need a bar chart to visualize certain kinds of trends, and we may need a line chart for certain kinds of trends. So now we are tying trends to two charts instead of one that we used to know. But then there are certain trends that you cannot use a column chart for. And there are certain trends that you can choose to use a column chart or a line chart. When it comes to ranking, we understand that column charts is good for ranking. For comparison, of course, is good for comparing. Now, a column chart or vertical bar chart is effective in visualizing trends because it clearly shows how values change over time across different categories. It shows how values change across different categories. That is comparing. But how values change over time, we thought that should be line chart. So what are the specifics? As data analysts, we need to go into the details and get better understanding. So let's look at this particular data here. And let's see if a column chart can be used to visualize this. What type of data is this? I asked this question last week and someone gave me the answer. What type of data is this? This data is called time series data. So last week, we learned that line charts are best for time series data. Today, we are learning that column charts can be used for time series data. In a column chart, the bars would show a clear trend of increasing sales over time, making it easy to analyze performance and predict future growth. Let's see if a bar chart can do this. Let's look at the bar chart, sorry, the column charts. Is that what is written here? A column chart, all right. Let's see if the column charts can be used. Look at the column chart and tell me if it is right. Is it correct in representing the data? Is it right? Okay. Look at it carefully. Does it represent the data well? What do you think? Don't wait for what I'll say. Just look at it. Is it properly and clearly representing the data and allowing you to interpret the data, allowing you to see the trends, allowing you to be able to know what is going on? Okay, the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. We can see what happened in January, we can see what happened in February, and we can tell the difference between January and February. This means, although line chart is a master of trends, column chart can also be used for trends. But there are some types of trends that you cannot use a column chart for, and there are some types of trends that you really need a line chart for. With this particular trend, there is nothing wrong using the column chart for this trend. It clearly explains the data, makes it easy to analyze the patterns, and predict future performance. I don't know what those two are doing in my chart. Okay. So we can see the two charts here, and they are both effective in analyzing this particular data or visually representing this data. So let's break the thin line here and see the difference now. Column chart versus line chart for trends. Now, both column charts and line charts, we have seen that they can be used to visualize trends. We have seen here that they are both effective. Now, but they serve slightly different purposes depending on the type of data and how you want to interpret it. So this is the understanding we want to gather in this lesson. Let's analyze this table and see. When it comes to column charts, we can see that column charts are best for comparing discrete values across categories. Example, monthly sales. The line charts are best for continuous data and for continuous trends and patterns over time. Okay, if you don't understand it yet, we will understand it. And we need to understand discrete values or discrete data and continuous data, but that is for another time. Now, data emphasis. The focus, it focuses on individual data points. The column chart focuses on individual data points. The line chart focuses on the overall pattern or the overall trend. So mostly when we use a line chart, we don't even show the points because the focus is on the trend or the pattern of the line. With this one, the focus is on the data point. But then, this is not the main reason why we would choose column chart over line chart. Once we get the main understanding, we are going to see that there are some types of data you can use column chart and some you can use the line chart. Now let's look at use case. Column charts are used when exact values matter. Example, comparing different months. Exact values matter. Line charts are used when tracking trends over a longer period, such as stock prices, temperature changes, etc. So when exact values matter, example, the differences in the months, when the values of each month matters. Now, column charts are good, but might look blocky for time series data. Line charts have smoother trend visualizations, and they are easy to see gradual changes. We will understand it very soon. When to use a column chart for trends? We are talking about trends. Column charts are useful for trends when you have relatively few data points. This is the main reason why you can decide to use column chart for trends or line chart for trends. When it comes to months, how many months do we have in a year? How many months do we have in a year? Okay, I'm waiting to see in the chat, 12 months. And so if you look at the trends we are actually looking at, it is actually between at most 12 points, at most. Let's go back and look at this chart here. You can see how 6 data points alone look so busy on the eyes and looks, it occupies a lot. Imagine we have 12. You have a lot of bars to look at. You have a lot of bars to look at if there are 12. Now imagine if there are 200. It's going to be very difficult to look at. And so the main point here in deciding when to use a column chart for trends is when there are relatively few data points, especially months. You may be analyzing just 6 months or 5 months or 4 months or a few months, or at most all the months. When it comes to years, you may be checking just between 5 years, and so it's okay to use it. And it also needs clear comparison between the categories. So column charts are useful for trends when you have relatively few data points and need clear comparison. You need clear comparison between the categories. So it is very good to visualize this. Now, when to use line chart for trends? Line charts are better for continuous data where the focus on the overall trend, when the focus is on the overall trend rather than the individual value. So this is really good. Number one, when the focus is on the trend rather than the individual values. And number two, when you have numerous data points. When you have a lot of data points and when the focus is on the trend. Over here, We use this when we have few data points and when the focus is actually on the values or on the points. Think about this. And so in this lesson, we have seen that column charts can also be used for trends and they work. But there is a time for it, and there is also time and place for the line chart. Let's look at this example. If you are comparing monthly sales for a year, a column chart works well because there are only 12 months. If you are tracking daily temperature over a year, a line chart is better. Imagine you are tracking daily temperature over a year. The keywords here are daily and year. So how many days are in a year? Who can tell me? How many days are in a year? There are 365 days in a year. Someone says there are 366. I know someone whose birthday is on February 29th. And so he only celebrates birthday for every 4 years. So this year he couldn't reach February 29th, so there was no birthday for him. Yeah. So for him, he needs February 29th before. Okay, that's fine. So look at the two examples here. The first one, we are looking for the trend between just 12 data points. In this case, it is very, very obvious that a column chart can work, even though it will still look a little complicated, but it's okay, it will work. But imagine 365 data points using column chart. It will be almost impossible and unnecessary to use. So a line chart works better for the second example. All right, so this is the part I ask if you understand or have a question. So if you understand, let me know in the chat if you understand what we are talking about here. Because here we have introduced something really, really important. We are talking about trends, and we are saying that column charts can be used for trends and line charts can also be used. And we are telling you when. The goal of this whole lesson is to know when to use what type of chart. And we are going to be covering a lot of charts. We are going to be covering a lot of charts that are used in data analytics. All right. So what I just gave you, this is how it looks like. So for the 12 months, the column chart is okay. But for the 365 days, look at the points here. I don't know if you can see the points here. So with this, we have 365 points. When you look at the line chart, can you interpret the data? Yes or no? These are two different data sets, okay? The first one here is talking about a different data set where we have just 12 months to analyze. And here is a different data set where we have 365 data points to analyze. My point is, when you look at the second chart here, although there are 365 points, can you interpret this data? And most of you are saying yes, of course. So line chart is good for this. And for the column charts, it can also be used to show trends. So we can see the trends, but it works best like this when we have few data points to compare. And we are also interested in the values. With this, we are not really interested in the values. With the second one, what are we interested in? What are we really interested in? with the second diagram here, the second chart here, we are interested in the trend, all right? Yes. So with this one, yes, well done, thank you. Yes, with the first one, with the column chart, we are more interested in the values, and we understand that there are few data points to compare. This is really, really good. Yes. All right. So now, technically, we will refer to this as bar charts. I'm going to give you some data to go to Excel and plot a bar chart. So right now, let the confusion be straightened from today that when we talk about bar charts, we are talking about the horizontal ones. In your mind, bar charts is usually the vertical ones. But technically, bar charts refers to the horizontal bars. So a horizontal bar chart is a type of bar chart. So there are types of bar charts where the bars extend horizontally instead of vertically. They are particularly useful when comparing categories with long labels or when visualizing ranking and distribution. They are useful when comparing categories. And so anytime you have this, you can see the different categories. And we are going to do some work in Excel to see how we can represent certain data on a bar chart to see the comparison. The length of each bar shows the value it represents. So how long it is shows the value it represents. That is very clear. The key features of horizontal bar charts is best for comparing categories, ideal for visualizing differences between groups or between categories or between different items or different products. The bars extend horizontally, easier to read when category names are long. It's easier to read when the category names are long. So what you are comparing is easier to even use this. When the names are long, they can do well on the horizontal charts. Sorted for better insight, often arranged in ascending or descending order for clarity. So most of the time they are arranged in ascending order or descending order. When to use a horizontal bar chart for comparing categories with long labels. Example, performance of different marketing strategies. Visualizing rankings. Example, top selling product in a store. So we can use this to compare, to visualize a ranking and to compare various products and their sales. Survey result analysis. Example, customer ratings for different service aspects. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to Excel and input this particular data. And I want you to create a bar chart with this data, and let's analyze it and see. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Just open to Excel, and when you are done, take a screenshot of your chart, put it in the chat for me, and we will continue. So I'm giving you 3 minutes in Excel. All right. So you've all done very, very well. I can see that your charts are right. They are good. And I hope I said bar charts. I hope I said bar charts. If I said column charts, then I should have said bar charts. I'll go and check the video again whether I said bar chart or column chart. So this is not supposed to be a column chart. Some of you sent column chart. This is supposed to be a bar chart, and you've done so well. Yes. And I want to let one person take us through how they did this. And I think I'm going to select Lucretia to share her screen. And I'm going to select Lucretia to share her screen and tell us how she went about it. Yes, I'm not going to open to my Excel. I want to see how you did yours, and we'll record it into the lesson. So let me allow you, Lucretia, please raise your hand for me if you can hear me. And I'm going to give you permission to share. Tell us how you did it, okay? So you share your screen and tell us how you did it. So, all right, so you are on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think for the first time,
Okay.
actually.
Yes. So initially what I did,
Yeah,
let me delete these. So I typed quarter and then I said Q1. So instead of typing everything, I just used the autofill
okay.
and then I typed all the money, but because I saw the graph didn't have, or the sheet didn't have currency symbols, so I didn't
Yeah,
come here. I just left it as it was.
okay.
And then I highlighted from the quarter to like up to here. Then I
Yeah,
went to insert, and then I couldn't find a bar chart here. So I clicked on the side here and then went to all charts, bar, and then selected the first one. And then when I got here, I then, okay, I think I messed it up. Let me remove these. Yes. So when I got here, I double clicked and then went to the add chart elements where I added my horizontal and vertical axis,
okay.
and then wrote chart revenue. And then I right clicked here on the first one and I added there was a add label or something like that for me to add the 30,000, and then I did the same for the rest, and then that's how I did it.
Wow. Let's put our hands together for her. You've done so well. Let's put our hands together for Lucretia. This is really good. This is really, really good. You've done well. Let's put our hands together for her. Let's put our hands together for her. You've done well. Done very, very well. Okay. Okay. All right. So that is good. That is good. That is good. Yes, I'm happy you were able to do it well and professionally, actually. You did it really, really well. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Someone said you have a sweet voice. We've never heard your voice, Lucretia. So for the first time, we get the opportunity to hear your voice. Okay. All right. So that's exactly what she did. And this is exactly what was expected. And that is it. All right. So at this point, I'm going to spend a few minutes to look at the assignment you were given, and we will wrap up. And before that, I want to ask whether you have learned anything from this class, what we have done just this evening. Have you learned anything from it? Anything at all? Has it deepened your understanding of charts? Have you learned anything? Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, David. Thank you, David. All right, so David has learned something from this, and thank you, Lucretia. And by the time we explore the very popular charts, you realize that this lesson will become a foundation. And when we are using Python for data visualization, it will be very easy. When we are doing visualization in Tableau and Power BI, it will be very easy. So I'm very happy that we've gone through this. We are not done. We'll have part 3 next week, and we will wrap up with this lesson if we're able to finish. And I'm going to elect one person to give us a summary of today's lesson. And after that, I want to see your assignments, and we will be closing early. So I want to see one person who can give us a summary. So you can raise your hand and I will call you. I want you to give us a summary of today's lesson. What have we covered, and what are the important things that we have actually learned from this particular lesson? Yes, so let me see anybody by hand who can give us a summary of today's lesson. Just raise your hand and I'll call you. Anybody? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So that's fine. That is fine. All right. So in today's lesson, we've been able to cover. Okay. So we have Zeph and we have John. All right. So let's listen to both of them. Let's start with John. So John, please give us a summary of the lesson today. Then Zeph will also tell us.
Okay, good evening, all of you. Thank you for
Yes.
the opportunity. It's good that we are hearing some of the voice of our class members today. The lesson started by a recap of what we did last week. You did a recap on how we visualize data using the charts, that is the line charts and other type of charts. But today again, we got an emphasis on the bar charts, of which most of us, we call them bar charts, but we have learned there's a difference between the bar charts and the column charts. So the one that vertical are the one that we refer as the column charts, which can also be used to visualize time series data like the line charts.
Wow.
And then I also learned that the one that are horizontal are the one that are supposed to be referred as bar charts.
Bar charts, yeah.
And they can be used to visualize ranking and also some survey results. That's what I got today. Thank you.
All right, that's good. Let's put our hands together for him. You've done well, John. Yes, let's put our hands together for John. He's done so well. Okay. All right. So Zeph, please raise your hand, Zeph. Let me call you. Want to hear from you. Want to hear your voice. And we'll wrap up. So Zeph, if you can raise your hand. Okay. So I don't know if Zeph is still here. Okay. All right. So let's hear from Zeph.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sir Darlington. When you mentioned Zeph, my network said I'm not going to speak, so I'm just getting back from my short break.
Okay.
So what I learned from this class, first of all, we had a recap of last week's class. So we went through the types of charts we have and used for. we saw column charts, line charts, and those define that it is a column chart, and when it is horizontal, we call it a bar chart. And so you encouraged us to use the industry name for the bar charts when it is vertical, and to call it the column charts. So you also showed us how to go about creating the column charts, and then we had an exercise. So that's what I got from the class, a resume. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for Zeph. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. And Paul, if you can tell us about what we said about trends, using the column charts and the line charts for trends. So Paul, let me allow you to speak.
All right, good evening, everybody. Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Paul.
Okay. Well, many things stood out for me, but since you specified the about trend, you mentioned that the line chart are better for continuous data, where the focus is on the overall trend, like for the overall trend, while for the other chart is used for individual trend. Basically, I think that is just the difference. One is focused on the overall trend. The other one is used for individual values, basically. So
all right.
That is what I can say as regards that. Then what stood out for me for the class?
Yeah.
What stood out for me for the class? I used to confuse bar chart for the vertical chart. I think now I've gotten the clearer comparison. Then I used to call both the vertical and the horizontal bar charts, but I think today I've been able to understand their difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So even in Excel, they properly name them. So if you select column, they are going to give you the vertical. And if you select bar, you get the horizontal. All right. All right. So I want to check the assignment you were given. One person's work who was able to do it well. I want to see your work. And for the others, I hope you've all sent it to the email. So I want to see from one person, and then we will be done with the class this evening. So I want one person to show me what they've done. Anybody? I'm very happy that today all of you were able to work on the charts, and it shows that you are all working. You are all having your machines and you are all ready. Yes, we have a lot to learn, and we will learn a lot. So make sure you don't miss the lessons. Make sure you are always here. Make sure you are participating. All right, so who's going to show their work? Okay. All right, so I believe you've all submitted your assignments. Very, very important. All right. So today I'm not giving an assignment. I'll give an assignment next week. So let's come prepared for it. And thank you all for joining and learning. Let's keep learning hard. And Bernardine has something to say.
Okay, so it's just to show my work. I was thinking someone was going to.
Okay. All right, so please share your screen and let's see what you've done.
Is my screen visible now?
Yes.
Okay. So this was the first one.
Wow.
That's the first one, and then this is the second one, the second sheet. So this was what I was going to come up with from exploring what we learned last week and the little I could add to it.
All right. All right. You've done well. Can you show us how you created the second one?
Okay, sir. So basically, okay, let me delete this. So basically, I just highlighted what I wanted to from this point to this point without adding the totals like we were instructed, so that it doesn't duplicate a figure. So I highlighted it and then I went to my insert, chose the recommended chart, which is in this case now this is column charts. So I chose the column chart, and then when it showed itself, I made use of the chart design, added chart elements. So that was when you go to chart design, you click on add chart elements, and then you get options. So when you do this, use this to adjust some of your values. And then you also, when you click on the chart itself, you right click. When you right click, you can always format your plot from here. So when you click on format plot area, you see options here. You see options. So when you click on the options, you can now adjust whatever you want to adjust from the options that are available. So here I selected as many as I could. So I just adjusted it to my tastes, the shadow, the glow, and other things. So if you want to increase this, just click on it and then you get, if it's preferred. If it's not preferred, then you can also adjust it yourself manually from here, the percentages. So you go to glow, you do the same thing, and then you also click here, you also get options. So you might want a solid fill or automatic and all of that. So basically that was what I did. I just explored all the options that are available from formatting to designing. So that was basically what I did.
All right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. So well done. And this particular chart is a clustered column chart because you can see that the various products are grouped together. So they are grouped together. So the four products we are talking about, we can see that we have laptop, desktop, keyboard, and mouse. And we can see that we have them in 4 different quarters. So for each quarter, we are doing the comparison in each quarter, and we are comparing that comparison in the first quarter to the second quarter, and then to the third and to the fourth. So this is what we call column charts among many categories. So we call them clustered column chart. Yes. All right. So that is it. Well done. Let's put our hands together for Bernardine. Bernardine, yeah, always setting the pace. Well done. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining the lesson. And thank you for participating in everything. Thank you for being so serious and learning. I want to encourage you to keep it up. Thank you all. And on that note, I wish you a very, very good evening. Enjoy your evening, and I'll see you next week. I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.